Alright, let's get started on this Vulkan tutorial. Let me just put some music on real quick. Or not. Something a bit kind of chill in the background. Okay, welcome. Just real quick, I have set up a couple of things to make stuff a bit easier. We've got a regular, just hello, kind of hello world C file there. And then we've also got a, what do we got? Yep, we've got a build script that just runs make clean and then make, which hits this make file that is very much copy and paste from this tutorial. I just changed the build or the compiler to be GCC and the standard to be C17 rather than C++17. Everything else is kind of similar. I'm not using Vulkan test or whatever their binary is. I'm just going to use game because it may one day be a game. And that's very similar to what I've got really. So I'm also going to put this up on GitHub, so if anyone really cares about the code, they can take a look. Yeah, so let's get going through this. The about section is just kind of going through what Vulkan is, who makes it, why it's here. Yeah, you can all read this at your own time, I suppose. Overview. This, I believe, goes through like the kind of high-level architecture of what Vulkan is. So we have our instance physical device, which is the GPU. So you select based on properties what GPU you want, and the logical device, which I think is an abstraction over that GPU, so to kind of use instructions directly, perhaps. The window surface and swap chain, I'll have to learn more about that. Image views and frame buffers. I think I remember seeing that frame buffers are what you do your rendering on. So you might have multiple frame buffers, so you can have a kind of queue of pre-rendered things that the window grabs to actually present. So you want to try and have a couple or a few frame buffers of already rendered states, so that the window never grabs an unfinished rendering, I suppose. But we'll definitely get into that as this goes on. Render passes, graphics pipelines, no, not really sure what all that is. Main loop is the game loop, and the command pool and command buffers, same. Not sure yet. Yeah, there's all these steps, blah blah blah. Like I said, we'll dive into these as we go. Development environment. This is just telling you how to set up Vulkan and all the other things you need, like GLFW for window creation, GLM for linear algebra library, setting up Visual Studio, which I'm actually using VS Codium, blah 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 blah. Setup for various OSs. This goes into GLFW setup, GLM, shader compiler, GLSL, lots of G's. And then the actual make file. But like I said, I've already got one which is slightly tweaked for not using G++, but using GCC and C17 standard. Yeah, and the rest of it's platform specific, so I'm going to skip over that, seeing as mine's up and running. Oh, I will actually just double check it is up and running. And we'll do a build of that. Yep, and it runs, and if we just run the game, not with a capital, it just says hello C engine. So build system works, happy days. General structure. So the general top level structure of the code for these guys is going to be a class which has a public run function, which they just run within the main instead of a try catch. In C, you don't really have try catch, well, don't at all unless you use macros, I suppose. So we have to just handle our own errors. And then they have this init Vulkan, the main loop, which is the game loop, and then you clean up when the game loop quits. And including Vulkan. All right, we're not going to copy that because I did look ahead and see a few things in a couple of these new early on steps. They talk about C++ type libraries, success and failure exits, blah blah blah. I'm not going to read through all this. Resource management. Yep, we have to use alloc calloc and malloc to allocate memory, and we also have to free it. In C++, you get something called RAII, which is like resource management. It's semi-automatic, and it's not a garbage collector, but it helps you, I believe. In C, we have when you create variables within a function scope, those things usually get put onto the stack, and then as you exit the function or the function returns, and they get cleaned up automatically. So anything out of scope, the C runtime figures it out. Yeah. However, anything we use malloc and alloc for, I think it all goes on the heap, so we need to manually clean up after ourselves. This is just some other information about how the Vulkan naming conventions work, I suppose. Integration of GLFW. Okay, here we go. So we need to include GLFW, which is fine. So let's actually restructure a couple of things. I'd like to keep all the C standard stuff at the top, and then anything else we include just below that. Let's change up our function, our main function. So we're going to be just using what's in here, and we're going to go with init window, which you haven't defined yet, but will init Vulkan, and main loop, and then finally cleanup. So let's quickly create some function prototypes for these, and they're gonna have, sorry, I use Mac all day for work, and then I have to relearn how I'm doing things in Linux every day. So yeah. Ugh. I also use VS Code at work, but I prefer to use Emacs at home. Alright, so let's just grab these function prototypes and put them down here, which we're going to actually do something pretty soon, hopefully. Alright. Save that. So now let's go down to init window. The very first call to init window should call GLFW init. Okay, that makes perfect sense. So in there, GLFW init. Is it capital I? Yes. Which initializes the GLFW library. Because GLFW was originally designed to create OpenGL context, we need to tell it not to do that. Okay, I'm just going to copy this rather than typing it out myself and making mistakes. Alright, and then this one. Okay, so we're going to skip handling resizing of the window for now, which is cool because that can be a real pain in the butt. Alright, going well. All that's left now is to create the actual window, add a GLFW window pointer as a private class member. Okay, now so we don't have private class members, so because we're likely going to have a few things, I know that we need an instance as well as a window. I think we are better off to create a struct. So we use type def so we can reference the struct name, like let's just call it app. No, does that make sense? I want to say it's called app for now, and then we might come back later and rename it. But we can easily reference app by itself without using struct as a prefix. Or not prefix, but like struct app when we're passing it around. Yes, so we need a GLFW window. Is the window bit capital? No, it's not. GLF. And that's going to be a pointer to window. Cool. So then let's initialize our app as just an empty struct. And then we're going to want to pass it, well, we're going to want to pass a pointer to it, to our window init. So this no longer takes that, it now takes a pointer to app, but let's call it pointer app like that so we kind of understand what it is. And I'm also going to put that in our function definition. Okay. So now we want to set window to be GLFW create window, like so. But we don't have this thing called null pointer. We only have null in C. And these are the windows, the window width and height. Oh, yes. And we want to do pub set window within our abstract to be equal to this. All right. And the first two parameters specify the width, height, and title of a window. The fourth parameter allows optionally to specify a monitor. No, we're not going to do that. And open a window on the last parameter only by relevance to OpenGL. Okay, so we don't care about that. And this wants us to now create constants. That's a good idea. They call them width and height, but let's just go with win width and win height. And we can, instead of having this, we can say win title. So the window that we create on the OS, we can have our own custom title. All right, let's create our constants up here. Const D, const just star, because it's going to be a string, a C string, so we're probably going to have to include st. Is it just string? I think it might be. Okay, win title is equal to, is it char star? Yes, it is. We're going to call it C engine, even though, as I thought, it's not actually going to be an engine. And now we want to do const uint 32 type T. Now, we may want to not write that out every time and create some type defs for shorthand. I'll look at that later. I keep pressing that button, idiot. So win width is going to be equal to, what was it, 800, and then win height is going to be 600. All right, cool. That should be all fine. Let's see if it compiles just real quick. Build. It does. Awesome. It doesn't do anything, but it compiles. Okay, now we've got our window. Now, yep, our init function, our init window function does look like that indeed. To keep the application running until either an error occurs or the window is closed, we need to add an event loop to the main loop function as follows. Excellent. Let's just clean some of this up. Right, so in the main loop, while GLFW window should close. Well, it shouldn't close. That's what the bang's for. We also need our window. So same deal as before. Let's do pap window. Pap. What a child. While the game window shouldn't be closing, we have to run GLFW poll events, which I'm guessing is going to request from Vulkan stuff to render, stuff to do. Allow me to do things. Okay, it's going to be an app and it's pointed to pap. So let's also update the main function here. We need to do the same thing for our loop. All right, let's. Oh, we also need to clean up. Oh, we're gonna have to pass that again, aren't we? Should have done that from the start. All right, so now our I bet init Vulkan requires this too, but we'll see. GLFW to clean up, we do destroy window. Ooh, dramatic. Pap window, pointer to app window, and then GLFW terminate. All right, let's give it a run. And we've got a window. Yay, look at that. And if we close it, does it close? It does close. Oh my God. Awesome. Let's take a look at their C++ code. We created our first Vulkan object. It's very, very nice. Ooh, that's bright. Okay, so they've got their include, same as us. Top level variables, 3 or 4 functions. It's pretty much the same, just C++, not in C. We're not doing this bit. But if we get any errors, we're hopefully going to be able to handle all of them as we need to. Beautiful. All right, I'm gonna leave it there, keep it nice and short and sweet. And oh, I'll tell you what I'll do. Actually, I will create a Git repo, git init, and let's go to Moosh, GitHub. I was trying to find it before. Cool. To repository, please. I am the owner, and we're going to call it CEngine. We'll make a private, public. What should we call the description? We are Vulkan Hello World Triangle in C. I won't add any of this junk, but let's go. Cool. I will add my remote origin. And we should be on main if we're all new. Hey. Oh, the other thing I neglected to mention that I also set up is this .vs code launch.json file to be used in VS Codium. It basically allows us to run, like step through the running application through the C code, and we can set breakpoints and stuff. It's like a nice interface on GDB, which is the GNU debugger. But we may also use the GNU debugger directly because it has some pretty nice features. Like you can see the assembly that's generated, but we'll get into that later because getting way ahead of ourselves. All right, awesome. So git add all of that stuff. Oh, do we want the game? No, we don't. Let's create a git ignore file. And oh, in case we ever run this on a Mac, I always do this. Damn you, Apple. In fact, you only get a lowercase a. Sorry. Even though I actually quite like Apple. DS store, I believe, is the file that Playwell creates. We're not going to have game, and we're probably going to have core dumps. So let's exclude those as well. So anything that is core dot asterisk should be fine. Okay. Git status, git add. There you go. Our game binary is no longer there. Oh, git add, and git commit, and our message is going to be created the window. Awesome. Git push, origin main, and we should have a readme. We should have git ignore, everything we need. Refresh that. There it is. Ah, fail on my old shrug ASCII art. I'll have to fix that in a bit. Okay, cool. So that's a nice little start. Let's take it from there in the next one. And we're going to be looking at set up we're going to be creating a VK instance. So that should be pretty fun. All right, see you in the next one.